What is up, DJ Triggs?
Yo, how's you living?
Oh man, it is swell, man, and what a day! A lot of stuff going on, and all of a sudden I go out for dinner, come back home, get ready to fire up the show, and looks like Jonathan Taylor's about ready to get up and out of Indianapolis. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess lucky for him. Uh, I don't know. It's a sad day in the world when like guys can just be like, "Yeah, I want to get traded," and like force their way out of places. Happens a lot in the NBA.
It does. But I look at it this way too, that like Jim Irsay is a terrible owner,
hmm
and I think we're getting closer to seeing more of these terrible owners in our lifetime work their way out of these professional leagues that we've seen, whether it's been Donald Sterling and the Clippers, the past GM of the Phoenix Suns, Dan Snyder in Washington. And I would say in the near future, we're going to see Jim Irsay is going to be up there as well. And
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
I mean, I'm okay with guys like you know asking for trades. I'm not like crazy or anything, but like
Yeah.
it happens so frequently now where guys are just like, "Oh, this team's horrible. I want to get traded," and then it's like they go to the next team and it's like, "Oh, this team's horrible, and I want to get
Yeah.
traded," and then like, but you sign all this money, and I know he's still on his rookie deal and everything, but it's like,
Yeah.
dude, it's kind of the way it goes. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it does. And the thing is, you want to be on a team that doesn't have a good trajectory over the next 2 to 3 years, because Indianapolis, in my opinion, will. I think the future they have between Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson is a great future for that team. We know they're going to build a good offensive line. Their GM that they have, I'm blanking on his name, but he's a pretty solid GM. And we know that's a team too that somewhat every now and then has a really good defense. So I think they can put the pieces back into place, but it's going to take time. It's just not going to happen overnight. But I think this is more of a Jim Irsay thing and not a Indianapolis Colts thing. I think it's more of resentment towards Jim Irsay than it is the Indianapolis Colts.
See, I think it's a running back thing. Like,
Okay.
I mean, the guy's not getting paid more and stuff like that, but I mean, to do that, they'd have to change the entire like rookie scale for running backs because that
Yes.
first 4 to 5 years is basically when they're at their peak. Like
Yep.
once they're out of that rookie deal, they're no longer, not in a mean way to say it, but like they're no longer necessary because then they can just go and
Exactly.
get another rookie. And
Yes.
I don't know, unless they change the way football is like done, which I don't really understand why they don't run the ball more, but then again, it's because guys get injured and they can't run them into the ground. But
Right.
like you have all of this technology, right? Where like you
Yep.
see like LeBron lives in like one of those freezing chambers and like time chambery
Oh,
hyperbolic jigs. And like,
with Antonio Brown's foot.
yeah, with Antonio
Yeah.
Brown's foot. But like they do
Yeah.
all of this stuff to like get their bodies much better, but then they break down so much easier. And I
Sure.
always think about like back in the day when guys didn't have all this stuff and all this technology and all this medical and they could run 1,000 times and play for 15 years and you're just like,
Yes.
oh, when did that go away?
Yeah, I want to know what in the world Frank Gore has been doing over the last 15 years of his career, because
Yeah.
whatever he's doing, that's it. That's what works. Like you talk about LeBron James, Frank Gore did something for being a running back, and he had the longest career that I've ever seen. I mean, that's incredibly impressive. Even Adrian Peterson did some really incredible stuff with
Yeah.
how long he was able to elongate his career.
And those are probably like the last two, like, for lack of a better word, Hall of Fame running backs.
Yeah, pretty much. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very short list of guys who are going to last around. I think Christian McCaffrey will have that ability because of how long he's able to take care of his body because of also being such a receiving threat. But nowadays, the running backs are just beginning to realize what Christian McCaffrey was doing at the start of his career, that now everyone's starting to hop on board with it. But I think you're spot on. I think Christian McCaffrey will be able to have his playing career last a longer amount of time. The newer guys who are trying to do it, like the Joe Mixons, the Nick Chubbs, the Derrick Henrys, I think you're right. I don't think it's going to happen with those guys. It's going to have to be another future generation that's like 3-4 years out from here to even get a chance at doing what Christian McCaffrey is doing.
Right. Yeah, it's sad, man. Like I don't really understand why they don't run the ball more, because it helps the pass so much and play action and
It does.
RPOs and stuff like that. So I don't really get it, but who knows? Maybe they're just not that good.
Yeah, no, yeah, it could be. I mean, I was listening a little bit before this Monday Night Football is getting ready to kick off, and I was listening to Andrew Whitworth, that former center for the LA Rams, and he was saying too that like a lot of these guys, because of what they're doing in college, what they're doing kind of growing up and getting to the pros and not having too much time to really practice, the offensive linemen aren't getting enough time that they need to really like learn and really learn what it takes to develop that technique in the trenches. I mean, it's a very wrestling, grappling kind of style of a game, and it's not really a traditional just skill set kind of thing like a running back or a wide receiver has. It's something that develops over time. So I think it's a fact that we probably have we have more offensive lines that are as not as well developed as offensive lines in the past. So I think right now there's a real struggle in the NFL to get good offensive linemen. I mean, I've heard that basically there's only about 10 left guards that are like elite level left guards on the entire planet. And that's an incredibly hard position to fill. I mean, even look at the Jets. I mean, they've had their struggles, and they're taking their former left tackle and switching him to right tackle because they feel he's just not going to be good enough to do it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that is true. Like back in the day, you would have like Hall of Fame like linemen left and right and left and right. And now it's
yep,
like Joe Thomas.
yeah. And he was a lifer for like 12 years, and he just went into the hall. And
Yeah.
shoot, I remember just seeing him the other day on what was it, last year or so, on that show The Rock had, where it was like some gladiator show thing, and Joe Thomas was one of the competitors that
Oh,
that the people had to go up against, and Joe Thomas held his own for like 2-3 weeks. He was pretty good. It was something like
yeah.
Titan Games. Yeah, it
Titans.
was a pretty
Yeah.
good show.
It was on NBC,
Yep.
I remember.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Kerry Champion. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, pretty good
No
show.
idea.
I know. I know. But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing with offensive lines and running backs. And I gotta admit too, I mean, even though it was from last week's games, and I saw a little bit I saw the Bengals Falcons game. There are two running backs out there who clearly jump out to me that I've seen this preseason, that they are incredibly explosive. They're dynamic. They're guys that you want because they're going to have good offensive lines. And these guys, I mean, you give them one cut and they have their burst of speed, and then they're like Dalvin Cook. They're just going to take off. They're gone. You can't catch them. Bijan Robinson is absolutely one of them. And to me, the other, and he didn't play in this game against I got to double check who the Saints played. I want to say it was the LA Chargers, but there was no Alvin Kamara in this game. But the previous week where I saw Alvin Kamara against the Chiefs, that guy is just lightning in a bottle. I mean, he's going to be suspended 3 games, but even Kendre Miller looks solid. And I saw him catch a really, really nice, like 30, 40-yard reception along the side of the field. But like, man, if you get Kendre Miller and Alvin Kamara, I think you're sitting pretty nice at the running back position. And then again, Bijan Robinson, yeah, it's like a 3-headed trifecta attack. But man, Bijan's got that power. He's got that explosiveness. And even Tyler Algier was a 1,000-plus yard rusher last season. So to me, those are the two running backs that if you want someone with a little bit of pop, I say go with those guys.
Huh. It's not, I mean, can't go wrong with that. One of those things,
Yeah.
like, I know we were talking about before is like, I'm really starting to lean towards that zero running back trash strategy.
Yes. Yes. It is. It's becoming more evident because like you pointed out, like today's NFL is leaning more away from the good blocking in the trenches and taking those running backs and really kind of delving them outside and put them in the slot. Like see what they can do catching the football and see how they can develop that way. I mean, I think the only true traditional running backs that we're really going to see this season are probably Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry, but everyone else is going to be some kind of dynamic of a pass catching tailback and a power running back. And it's all a matter of how good the offensive lines are for their teams. And on top of that, do they have a fire breathing quarterback? Do they have one that puts the fear into the eyes of the defense? If that defense is so focused on that quarterback, then that running back is going to have more opportunities. So I mean, I know there's a lot of razzle dazzle about Jahmyr Gibbs, but then again, like, is Jared Goff really a fire breather, or is it more of a factor of how good that offensive line is? And what's to say when they get to the end zone? Like, okay, there's no TJ Hawkinson, but there's a lot of good stuff with Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. You put him in that goal line offense, Amon-Ra is going to run some really, really clean routes. So, yeah, like I got some concerns there, but I'm with you. Like when it comes to the early rounds of the draft, I am considering more of the heavy hitting wide receivers, and it's almost like people completely forgot about like Devonte Adams. I mean, by our metrics of bona fide number values, like Devonte Adams was like 4 to 5 standard deviations ahead of the most average elite scoring wide receiver out there. That the only guys who put up numbers like that are Devonte Adams, Justin Jefferson, and Travis Kelce. Everyone else at whatever position they play, they are nowhere near close to the level and
Right.
absurdity of how far away those guys are.
Yeah. I literally was just pulling up our fantasy depth tracker.
Yep,
Um just and I was telling someone about how wide receivers, like, the top of the top are like bananas, and
they are.
then everyone else is kind of the same.
They are. Absolutely. And like if you're not a true bell cow running back, if you're not Josh Jacobs or Christian McCaffrey, you're not really even going to be close. Like even Nick Chubb and Tony Pollard, yeah, they're like about 2 standard deviations of a bona fide number value ahead of the rest
Mhm.
of the pack, but that's 2. We're talking guys like Devontae, Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, Kelsey, who are like 3 to 4. That's mind blowing. And even like Jalen Hurts as a quarterback is at about 3. And Jalen Hurts missed a month's worth of football. What's to say that if he plays in his games, he doesn't jump up to like 3.5 or even pushes 4 at being a quarterback? There's a lot of things that we're seeing more of. Like our passing players are just making more of an impact on the game than the guys carrying the rock. If you're a true running back, you really got to be at the top of your game. Otherwise, you're just going to be kind of average. And I don't know, you might be more of like when everything's said and done, you might be at the level of like a DJ Moore or Garrett Wilson were last year, where it's good, it's impressive, but I mean, it's not like you just absolutely destroy your opponent. I mean, I had Joe Mixon, I had one good week out of him. That's it. So like
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. Like you got to get those big time air receivers, and plus like all it takes is like one 70 to 80 yard pass, and you take it to the house, and boom, that's like that's like 15 points right there. Especially if you're playing PPR, that's literally like 15 points in one play. That's a huge impact that a receiver can make. That a running back literally has to cut through 7 to 9 guys and then have breakaway speed to make that kind of an impact.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's so weird with fantasy football how, like, something so small like that shows exactly how the NFL's moving forward. I mean,
Yes.
look at just like the Green Bay Packers, for instance. They
Yep.
have 2 running backs because they don't want to run Aaron Jones into the ground. And Aaron Jones is also more of the pass catching back, but A.J. Dillon catches passes too and caught quite a few, I want to say like 5 touchdowns
Okay.
receiving wise. See
Okay.
if I can find that really quick. But yeah, it blows my mind that that's how the NFL is moving, is like dual backs. I mean, look at Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt
Yes.
was the like
Pass
pass
catcher.
catching back.
Yep.
Who do they have now?
It is Jerome Ford.
Oh,
I didn't see much of him play, but yeah, Jerome Ford is that number 2 back. I believe he is a rookie, if I'm right, but he's definitely that new complement to Nick Chubb. I mean, Nick Chubb is going to get a ton of work. To me, the concern is with that offense is, okay, if they get to the goal line, what is going to happen? Is it going to be, I mean, you have a lot of stuff going on there. You got Elijah Moore, who's in the slot. Do they take Elijah Moore off the field? Do they go more 12 personnel between Njoku and Jordan Akins? And then outside, you got Amari Cooper running some stuff. And I know we talked about Donovan Peoples-Jones, but I was just watching the Cleveland game today against Philly, and their 3rd round draft pick Cedric Tillman made a really nice touchdown pass or reception. I think that's a really good guy that they're going to work into that lineup more. So, like, to me, there's a lot more options when they get to the goal line. Nick Chubb could definitely have a ton of yards, but I do wonder if he gets kind of like hawked when they get to the goal line.
okay. Yeah. I like Jerome Ford's he's a 2nd-year player out of Cincinnati.
Okay.
He didn't really
So he's
have
with
too much.
Ritter and Sauce.
Yeah, he didn't really have much like many carries last year, so maybe
Yeah.
they do use him a little bit more.
Sure.
He's definitely a guy to like keep your eye on if Chubb goes down. So it's
Right.
not a bad look. Yeah, I don't know. Their wide receiver core just doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, I can tell you though, if you get a chance, that Cedric Tillman play is very impressive. And then you have the weird stuff going on too, where like I really do question if Deshaun Watson is the best quarterback on this team. I've seen a lot of Dorian Thompson Robinson, and I like it. There's a lot of good throws he's made, a lot of tight throws he's made. There was a really nice pass that he made close to the goal line where a defender lost track of the ball, but it was still a really tight window that he threw that in, and his guy got it. It just always felt like whenever there was a tight moment, a tight throw that had to be made, Dorian Thompson Robinson made it happen. So I really wonder, like, okay, we'll see what happens, but for the a little bit of time where we saw Deshaun Watson play in the preseason, he looked bad. He did not look like he was in rhythm. He looked like he had a ton of rust like he still had before. And I even felt too in this Eagles game that they're like that defense is insane. If you want to run the ball against Philly, it's not going to happen. I mean, even though there were backups, it still felt like Nick Chubb would absolutely be running through like sand in order to get through that defensive front. But it felt like there were times where that pocket was collapsing so fast that the agility of Dorian Thompson Robinson allowed him to kind of outmaneuver all those pass rushers. But if it was Deshaun Watson, Deshaun's not that nimble. Ever since he tore his ACL, he's a different player. And I feel like you're going to get more sacks and more drives that are just going to come to a halt because he's going to take a sack when Dorian Thompson Robinson won't. He'll either scramble or he'll throw it away just in the nick of time.
See, but the problem is Deshaun Watson's guaranteed money until 2026. So
yeah,
you basically can't get rid of the guy because he's all dead money at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Just talk to the Seattle Seahawks, talk to the Denver Broncos. They'll give you a real good insight on how to deal with it. But when the future is here and the future is now, you go with it. And even with Carson Wentz in Philly, I mean, they brought in Jalen Hurts, and Carson Wentz didn't have a big deal, but it was clear and obvious that it was a matter of time before Jalen Hurts took that job. And
Yeah,
I
but
feel we are easily on that way.
but Deshaun Watson's money is fully guaranteed. Remember,
It is.
he was the first, so like with that
Absolutely.
big of a contract, so literally they're handcuffed. Like he's handcuffed until 2026. They can
Yep.
void out his base salary, and he's got a low
Okay.
cap number in 2027. So he
Wow.
no matter what they do, I mean if they play
Yeah.
Dorian, but like yeah,
They
he's
can't get rid of
basically
him.
just stuck there. There's nothing
Yeah.
they can do about it.
So Deshaun is essentially 50 million against the cap year in, year out, no matter what, except for 2027.
2027, it says it would be 8.9 million of dead cap if they got rid of him then.
Yeah, that's fine.
2026 is 72 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's insane.
Yep. They would
So if
be
it's 72 million, like if they wanted to just like literally cut him and eat it and take the dead cap, what would that number be?
the cap savings would be they would owe 9 million negative 9 million savings. So like cuz he's 21% of the cap in
Okay.
2026. Then the
Okay.
dead money for 2025 would be 136,
Holy
and
smokes.
the cap savings would only be 72 million.
Wow. That's some wild economics going on
Yeah.
there.
Because remember, it's guaranteed. So like if they cut him, they still have to pay the next year of salary
Gotcha.
plus what he's making that. Yeah. So you only would save like nothing.
Yeah, I know. I feel like it's not a savings. I feel like when it comes to that, and we know Denver is basically dealing with this issue as we speak. I think it's more of you screwed up, you have the guy, you have a capable starter, and that player becomes a backup. I think they just become a high, incredibly highly paid backup, and you just got to eat it and you got to move forward. Um, the thing is, though, that's definitely going to screw up how they work if Dorian Thompson Robinson does truly succeed and surpass Deshaun Watson. Then I would think those economics are going to get a little screwed up because Dorian Thompson Robinson is not on a first round rookie contract deal. So his contract expires 3 years from now. So this is year one of four that they have Dorian Thompson Robinson without franchise tagging him. So maybe they do that in year five, but it's it's a very unique situation that Cleveland put themselves in, and you're right. I think they completely screwed up financially, and I mean, yeah, he had all his off field issues, but I think the biggest issue with Deshaun Watson still is the ACL. Like it is dealing with his mechanics, it is dealing with his mobility. Um, to me, he just doesn't look the same as when he was a Texan and he was slinging it. Like he could run, he could throw. He was, to me, at that point in time, like he looked like a Michael Jordan playing quarterback in the NFL. It was just like a different thing about this guy coming out of Clemson that was just absolutely remarkable. And I clearly thought he was on his way to taking over the league until the ACL hit, and then he got weird.
Yeah, Dorian Thompson Robinson is under contract with them until 2026. So if they did let go of Deshaun Watson in 2026, and
Yep.
uh, I guess we could call him DTR, uh,
Yeah.
his cap hit is only 1.2 million.
Okay.
Point he makes half a percentage point of the total cap.
Beautiful.
So he makes
Absolutely
nothing.
beautiful. Yep. And I saw him interviewed not from the Philly game, but the game they played in week one between the Hall of Fame game and this Philly game. And seeing him get interviewed, like, man, he is awesome, down to earth, very likable, like a really nice guy. And I think stuff like that just is going to resonate with Cleveland, and he's really going to become a fan favorite. It's a matter of time. I mean, all it's going to take is one more bad headline of Deshaun Watson or Deshaun Watson just really playing poorly, and those DTR chants are going to come out of those stands real quick. I even remember when Baker Mayfield was like starting out with the Browns, like those fans were nuts for Baker Mayfield. And I see them like they know they have Deshaun Watson, they know they have a good quarterback, but I don't think they feel they have a great quarterback. And I feel like there's something special about DTR and unique to that guy that they feel like this is the guy that could be that greatness that they're hoping for.
Yeah, just looking at him, I mean, it's weird. He won't be a free
Yep.
agent until 2027. And like he was drafted in the 5th round, but like he's there. Like
Yeah.
if another team wanted to like take a look at the guy like a Seattle or a Tampa or
Yep.
a Denver, like they could go trade for this guy. I don't know, give up like a 4th round pick or something, 5th round pick, and just be like, I think this is the dude, and it would be a steal.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think though it's gotten to the point where even Cleveland knows that they have something special. The fact that literally in like one game, like pretty much the first preseason game is all it took, and he immediately skyrocketed all the way up to number 2 on the depth chart. He surpassed I forgot who the other quarterback was, but he surpassed Kellen Mond, which is definitely a Stefanski favorite from Minnesota that he wanted to roll the tires with and see what he could do in Cleveland. But he was not good enough. I don't know. Kellen Mond makes some good plays, but he makes a lot of wonky, weird plays as well. And he has nowhere near the mobility that DTR has. Or the confidence. There's just like this swagger, the confidence, just the quick reads of downfield. He's got this presence in the pocket. There's truly something special about the guy, and Mond is like maybe a 3, maybe not even on the team in my opinion. I think they absolutely just roll with Deshaun and DTR, and then you have some other guy that you kind of know could run the system should anything happen to both of those guys, and you have your emergency.
What about Joshua Dobbs?
That's right. Dobbs is there. Yeah, I would go with those 3. I would cut Kellen Mond, and I would go with Dobbs, DTR, and Deshaun. I think those are the 3 I feel the best with. You can't carry 4 quarterbacks. You just can't. No. And Kellen Mond has had enough time. He's had his ability, but ever since he was with Mike Zimmer up in Minnesota, Zimmer greatly disliked him. And this is a guy that's coming out of Jimbo Fisher's offense and was MVP of the Senior Bowl and still couldn't make it. So, yeah, I think you really got to cut ties with Kellen Mond and move forward with the 3 quarterbacks you got.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yep.
They're all just people.
Yeah. Hey, that's the name of the game, and it is what it is. And whether it's fantasy or real life GM football, that is what they are. So you got to play with it. But yeah, so yeah, we got that. Shoot, we are even live. We got some Washington-Baltimore action, and just gazing at the game right now, we got Washington at the goal line, and looks like Sam Howell is close to the goal line, but absolutely just got smushed by a couple of Ravens. So yeah, there's some stuff going on. They got their first team out there. They got Curtis. Oh, they did not get in. So they are at a 4th and goal, bringing out the kicking team, but it looks like they had all their number 1s, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Sam Howell. Looks like they were all out there, but nothing happening. Speaking of Washington, I'm going to put that out there that is possibly a landing destination for Jonathan Taylor. I think I'm going to call it right now. Washington would absolutely be one of those places. Why? Because it's out of conference. It's out of the AFC. To be honest, too, Washington still needs to improve that offensive line. But I just don't see anything like truly special moving forward between Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson at this point. Maybe there was with Brian, but I still feel what happened to him at the beginning of the season still carried an effect, and still when you're taking those hits, like it adds up. I like Brian Robinson, but I just don't think he's great. Jonathan Taylor is great, and he just needs to be out on the field, and he can show it. And even with a bad offensive line with Indianapolis last year to start the season, he showed that greatness. So, hey, I like all this time I called that Aaron Rodgers would land with the Washington football team, and it never happened. So, you know what? I'll go back to it with Jonathan Taylor.
Well, I hear there's some reaching out to Miami. Miami was in on
Right.
every other running back out there.
They were.
But I guess, I mean, if you want to send him into purgatory, yeah, why not? Throw him to Washington. They don't
Exactly.
have a quarterback. Their defense is all blah. What's the young man's name? The defensive end that they drafted. Isn't he hurt for the season?
I don't know. You might be right. But
What? Oh
there's
man, why am I blanking on the guy's name?
Chase Young.
Yeah, there we go, Chase Young. Like,
Oh, okay.
so I don't know. Washington's
I thought
not
he
going
was
to
good
win
to
their
go.
division by any means.
Right. But they do notoriously have a tough defense. They do have Ron Rivera, that is a tough defensive coordinator minded head coach. So they're going to play you tough in the trenches, game in, game out. The one thing that I do like, and I was a little opposed to this probably a few weeks ago, but I do think Jahan Dotson starts to take over. I mean, this is a team that still doesn't really have that tight end threat like they used to. And there's a lot of focus to Terry McLaurin. I think Jahan Dotson really starts to open it up. And plus, I mean, what Dotson was doing at Ohio State was he was really opening up space downfield. And I think Jahan Dotson really leans into that this year. And in the video I just posted on YouTube, I posted the fact that the bona fide number value of Jahan Dotson is almost identical to Terry McLaurin. And I think that shows that even in his rookie year, that Jahan Dotson is already playing at a truly elite level and can even grow upon that. My concern was what happens if De'Ami Brown really shows up in this lineup. And I know that's a name no one's really familiar with, but the guy had in college, he had over 1,000 yards receiving for multiple seasons. And he went to college with the current quarterback of Washington in Sam Howell. They are both from North Carolina. De'Ami Brown on our bona fide number sheet pulled up at, I want to say, like 17th. And actually, like, I really want to bring this up now, now that we've been talking about it here a few times. So let me see if I can pull that up.
While you're doing that,
yeah,
Chase Young, he has
yep,
a stinger. I'm sorry. He was injured last season with the torn
right,
ACL, right? And then
okay,
on top of that, Washington also didn't sign him for his 5th-year option. So, like, they must know something about him if they didn't sign this superstar end.
right, and yeah, I've heard something too, like about Chase Young, that like his practices, like he's kind of not the most like, I know it's practice, but like he's not maybe like the most engaged into it kind of thing. I've heard something along those lines, that like they're not seeing as much hustle out of him like they would hope to see. So that's something that's going on. I'm not totally sure about that, but that was something I heard about a year ago, about this time, when there was talks that Chase Young was really going to need this time to recover from his injury. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. And here we go. I got the elite fantasy bona fide numbers from last season. So if we work our way to these receivers, and here we go. We got everyone ranked. We got 1 through 16. These are all the guys that qualified as bona fide elite players by our value, because they all have values greater than 1. You can see too, like Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis, and even T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Lockett, like these guys are all really close. And there's easily a good chance that this season they surpass all of those values and they all become elite players this season. And plus, I mean, like, yeah, I love my Zay Jones, but Now they got Calvin Ridley down there in Jacksonville. Like maybe my Zay Jones takes a hit and Calvin Ridley rises up. I don't know. We'll see. But going back to the Washington receiving core and what we saw, that Terry McLaurin, and if we look at this, he's probably ranked about 29th. So he'd be the 29th best receiver by our metric. And right below him at 31 is Jahan Dotson. Well, further down from this list from Jahan Dotson was De'Ami Brown. So right here at 43, and I saw that, I'm like, that name makes no sense. I have no idea who that is. He's somewhere close to Alan Lazard and George Pickens. And I didn't know what was up with that, but I found out he is on Washington. And on their depth charts, if Jahan Dotson or Terry McLaurin goes down, De'Ami Brown is the next receiver that is positioned outside that's going to be playing wideout for that team. So, yeah, I would not have thought that the 43rd best receiver, a guy who had bigger games than George Pickens and Debo Samuel last year, is also a Washington Commander. So I thought that was kind of a ironic thing I noticed on the list.
Yeah, I mean that can be a little bit misleading too, because I mean I'm not gonna pick that guy over Debo Samuel.
No,
Just
no. Not at all. Not at all. And literally too, I mean, you actually go back and you check his stat line across the season last year. And what brought him to this point was literally one game against the Tennessee Titans. He had one game that he balled out for like 100 plus yards and 2 touchdowns, and that did it. So that is what brought him up into us noticing him on this list. Whereas like we look at guys like Debo Samuel and George Pickens, and we just think the world of those guys. Like those guys are absolutely going to succeed this season. They're going to have big games, and they're going to move up way higher than being in the 40s for wide receivers. So I think seeing that and just knowing that it was just basically one game makes me feel that Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin are absolutely going to be just fine if you draft them to your fantasy team. Plus, there's more confidence behind Sam Howell this year. So, like, you really got to pick your poison. Like that's a team that's not going to score a lot of points. So when you see the matchups for the receivers having a good possible day, then you go with them. But I think you really got to be real spotty with them. Those are guys that you're going to play more of a daily fantasy football than an actual fantasy football with, because it's going to be so hit and miss with those guys that if you just put them out every day, you're absolutely going to get burned.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantasy football. Not everybody can be a stud.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, like there's some interesting guys on this list. I mean, like I really like the guys who are kind of on the cusp of getting there, like your DK Metcalfs, your Brandon Ayuk's, DJ Moore being in Chicago now, Garrett Wilson now having Aaron Rodgers, Gabe Davis in Buffalo. Another thing I saw something today, and I've been seeing a few more chirps of this pop up on Twitter when this really happened about a month ago, and it kind of makes me wonder, like, what really is going on behind the scenes, because all of a sudden I saw one tweet today that Stephon Diggs has requested or has submitted a list of like 4 teams to Brandon Beane on where he would like to be traded to. And what in the world is up with that? Yeah.
Really?
Yes. I'll have to go back. I'll find the tweet and I'll repost it to my Twitter, and I'll post it for us on Db8 Sports. But I saw one of those teams was the Dallas Cowboys. I know that. Plus, I mean, his brother plays in Dallas, so that's something that would definitely lure him to that city. But that's the thing with Stephon Diggs, is like he's a hothead. I mean, he's a heck of a receiver, but man, if he sees something that he really doesn't like and just gets stuck on it, he can absolutely throw a tantrum. And we know there was that practice in, I think it was like the spring practices, where he just went off and they pulled him out of practice for the day. So, well, yeah, I thought that was interesting that I'm seeing this stuff appear on Twitter now.
So he did break his silence 2 hours ago.
Okay.
What's up? It's 100% not true that he wants to be traded.
So I saw that, but I also something about I think it's about 4 hours ago that said here's a list of 4 teams to be traded to.
Yeah. Yeah. He just like got on Twitter and said it.
Okay.
Um
Okay.
Apparently Stephen A. Smith on Monday
Okay.
announced that he wanted out of Buffalo, and Stephon Diggs is like, yeah, 100% not true. I don't know who the source is, but I thought I'd nip this in the bud.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that's got to be where this is fueling from, is from Stephen A. Smith on ESPN. So he's got a lot of power, and he can definitely make headlines. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
somebody's just trying to hit the ground running.
exactly.
So our next video on YouTube
Yes.
is going to be 4 destination for Stephon Diggs. Just letting you guys know it's coming out. No,
There you go. Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I love the firepower of Josh Allen, but yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. There's some weird stuff. Like, Gabe Davis is a heck of a receiver. He had his best year of his career last season, even though he missed a few games. And then again too, like James Cook. I know a lot of people kind of criticize, can they run the ball? Well, James Cook ran the ball all right last season, and by our it's not our bona fide number metric, but I looked at yards before contact for just running backs of every team in the NFL last season, and the team that ranked number 2 was Buffalo. So if you're looking for James Cook in like round 7, round 8, or round 6, I'm not exactly sure where James Cook is landing. Actually, you know what? Let's bring that up. Let's see if that happens. Let me play around with it. But yeah, like, I think that's a really okay. Here we go. We'll try again to screen share this. But yeah, like, I just feel like you can get something valuable out of a running back that plays with a fire-breathing quarterback, and it really takes that pressure out of the box. 2 years ago, I did that with Najee Harris, and it seems like now maybe like that trend is coming back to Najee. Yeah, there we go. So it looks like Najee already is going in round 3, and I get it. Like last year I didn't, but like definitely his rookie year, I thought the guy was a great young running back to go with. But yeah, let's try to find where James Cook is going. Looks like his brother is going in round 7.
6.
And yeah,
6.
yeah, there we go. So there's James Cook's in round 6. So yeah, that's something that, like, hey, I mean, you got a team with a really good offensive line, and you actually got a nice young up and coming running back that I think something can happen there. I think another fan favorite, and especially a favorite of you and I, and this team actually ranked number 1 in yards before contact in Jacksonville. And I'm telling you, man, like, our guy Tank Bigsby is insane. I actually wrote he had 5 runs of 10 plus yards in this game against Detroit. Like this, I mean, when I think of a guy who has that kind of breakaway burst of speed, like what I see in Bijan Robinson, I love that kind of burst of speed I see out of Tank Bigsby. I think there's just something really special out of the guy.
Hey,
yeah,
metrics. We just got a comment. Trey says that he finished a redraft last night and would like to have his squad rated.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's bring it, Trey. Yeah, if you can post it here in the comments, I think that's probably the best way of going about it. What do you think, Triggs? You think the comments, or do you think if he posted a picture on, I don't know what social platform could do that for us? Would that be like an Instagram thing, or here we go. I see he's commenting. So we got.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
I mean, comments will probably be better.
Yeah, I think comments will definitely work, Trey. So this is awesome. We got a full PPR. We got pick number 2 out of 12. No super flex or premiums. So that's pretty cool. Definitely trade with us, with the league Triggs and I are in. We don't do anything crazy super flex or premiums. So yeah, let's look at who you got. So I'm seeing Jamar Chase, Garrett Wilson, I love that. That
Yeah,
is pure firepower, man. And I
and
do love.
Waddle.
Oh my.
Yeah,
Woo! That is pretty awesome. I mean, you really want to have those guys who can just run laps around people downfield, and that's huge, man. Getting Chase, Wilson, and Waddle, those are like three guys that, from what we see, and we can bring it up here, like those are three guys that should be going in probably the first 2 rounds, right? Right, Triggs?
yeah, and I mean that's that's bona fide firepower right there.
It is. Yeah. So he's got Jamar Chase. I mean, we rank that as a 2.3 bona fide value. Then you got Jalen Waddle at basically 1.9. So already he's at like 4.2. And then Garrett Wilson at zero point 0.8. So right there, that's 5. That's a powerful
And
number. That's like essentially the performance of Devontae Adams or Travis Kelce last year. And that is just from those guys, like basically starting out their NFL
and
careers last season.
and that number is going to go up for Wilson because
Yes,
clearly he's got an actual competent quarterback too. So, and then on
absolutely.
top of that, to grab Evan Ingram from
Yep,
Jacksonville now,
yep.
like, dude, that's a studly tight end.
That's an angry tight end. I love like last season. Ingram had 2 really big games, and he's going to have those weeks where he's just going to take over. They're going to focus on Calvin Ridley. They're going to focus on Christian Kirk. But Ingram is the one true guy on that team that has size. Like Zay Jones definitely has height as well, but Zay Jones is more of like a breakaway kind of guy. When it comes to just being at the goal line, I think they're like Ingram and Tank Bigsby are going to be more of that threat. And yeah, there might be some Travis Etienne plays, but I really like what he got there with Evan Ingram, and
Yeah.
he's got a fire breathing quarterback. I mean, to me, there's basically about 6 to 7. He's got Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, with Lamar Jackson, that's pretty darn good at quarterback. Then with Ramondre Stevenson, I enjoy him, and I mean, even in the most recent preseason game for the Patriots, he was running like a man on fire. So like, you're gonna
Wow.
get your points out of him. Um,
Okay.
and Javante Williams, I don't know. If Denver's really good, then he's good, but he's going to give you, number one running back numbers because it's him and Samaje Perine right now.
It is, and I personally I like P Ryan more. Javante's coming off a pretty rough ACL injury, so like just putting this out there for everyone. Like I once you do that, I'm pretty much going to stay clear of that player until they prove to me that they've truly recovered and they're on a different level. The one guy who did that is Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook had a serious Achilles injury about maybe like 2-3 years ago. He balled out 2 years ago, and then last season he had a great season behind a not so good offensive line in Minnesota. So like now I need to see it. I need to see it from Deshaun Watson. I need to see it from Brees Hall, and I need to see it from Javante Williams before I ever commit to bringing those players onto my lineup. So that's where I am with ACLs. Like, yeah, these are
Right.
great players, but just prove it to me one year, and in that like flex of a year where I'm just kind of gauging and seeing how they're doing, I'll play against that player and I'll look to drafting them in the future. And it is what it is. I mean, the moment Todd Gurley screwed up his knee coming out of college, we all knew it was only like a 5-year clock. And also, it was the second time that he did that. So these guys have a clock, but we want to see what it happens after that first year. So that's where I put it. But yeah, we see some good stuff here. I thought Rashad White had some kind of injury not within the last few days, if I'm right about that. I mean, I love the ability out
Let
of
me
him.
check.
I know there's a lot of PPR. Yeah, there's a lot of PPR pass catching ability out of that. Yeah, Michael Pittman and Indianapolis, like, yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, there's and again too with now the Jonathan Taylor news, now there's going to be more focus on that passing game. because they won't have to put 7 to 8 guys in the box to stop Taylor. So I'd be a little less leery on Pittman. Sky Moore is a guy I really like. I've liked him ever since seeing the guy coming out of Colorado. Elijah Moore, I actually really like. I like seeing him in the slot for Cleveland. So it's always nice when you have a interesting slot player on your team, because if you see that good slot matchup and you're having trouble with the rest of your lineup, it's nice to bring in a player that's kind of from a unique position, not just a CeeDee Lamb who dominates a slot because he's CeeDee Lamb or Cooper Kupp, but you do have a unique player in Elijah Moore where he's like the second best receiver behind Amari Cooper. So that's some good stuff.
So Rachaad White says he's okay. It was a non-contact, like he just buckled his knee or something.
Right.
But he's actually like pretty upset with with, of all places, ESPN about his low ranking as a running back. But
Weird.
The one thing I did notice is I really like James Cook on your team, Trey.
Yes.
Because if Javonte doesn't pan out, you have James Cook to take some space there. Yeah, that's I don't know who you were drafting with, but like you got five guys in the top 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah.
Am I counting that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like Lamar, Chase, Garrett Wilson, Ramondre Stevenson, Jalen Waddle. That's right up there. And then you have a lot of like extra just added toughness with Evan Ingram and James Cook. I like that. And then you have the flexible positions beneath it with White, Pittman, Moore, Penny, and Elijah Moore. And actually, I've been hearing more talk too that Philly is looking at cutting Rashad Penny. So, I mean, I'd hold on to Penny before that ever happens. But there's definitely it seems like there's competition between Penny and Trey Sermon for like that last number 3 spot. I mean, I know they got Boston Scott. They like him. I don't know. I saw him for a blip of a play against Jacksonville. It wasn't the hottest, but I mean, I still know what I saw out of Trey Sermon out of Ohio State. There was a bad fumble in this game that Philly had, but man, there's you definitely want some of these Philly running backs. They're very interesting. Yeah, and thank you, Trey. We definitely appreciate the comments. Yeah, and definitely would love to see more with us here at No Debate Sports, and anything else you got with your future drafts. We'll definitely help you out and give you more advice on that. Yeah.
I'm just stunned by his lineup. Like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Like every one of those guys are going to give you pretty studly numbers. And like, if James Cook or Rachaad White pans out, like you can make a trade and get probably a super team.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like I really like that. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Like I also like the ability that he took with his team. And I mean, yes, I do believe in having handcuffs for certain players, certain running backs on your team. But I do like how he has that flexibility that if one of them goes down, another one can just be easily inserted in the place, because on paper, all 4 of those running backs are regarded as the number 1 back. I mean, there is going to be a little competition with Ramondre and Zeke. That's going to be a thing. Javonte is going to have to show that he can outplay Samaje. I mean, even though there is very little tread on the tires of Samaje Perine, Samaje to me is easily a top 16 back in the NFL, but he's just never had really that playing time. And I mean, the games that he stepped in for Joe Mixon last season were solid. I want to say he scored a touchdown and had somewhat good yardage in every single one of those games. And there was even one game where him and Joe Mixon both balled out in the same day. I think they both had like maybe 2 touchdowns each. So like there's really something to having Samaje Perine. That might be the one that if I had to get a backup of any of those 4, that might be the one that I would look at, because Ramondre and Zeke might split some of those touchdown scores at the goal line. But if anyone were to kind of get superseded by the back behind them, that might be Javonte Williams. So maybe Samaje Perine, just see what happens with Rashad Penny. And if you want to handcuff that there, then you're good to go.
And you know what's crazy? Like, yeah, if Rashad Penny gets cut, you got your guy to pick up, Samaje.
Yes. And me, like, I do like the irony here. Me personally being a fan of Trey Sermon plus our guy Trey S. I mean, hey, maybe you go for Trey Sermon. Like, who knows? What if Trey could work his way up that depth chart of Philadelphia like that? That would be cool. I mean, Kenneth Gainwell can play, but man, I would love to see Trey Sermon. I would love to see him stick it to the 49ers for letting him go, because, like, man, I just don't understand how a good running offense like the 49ers brings in Trey Sermon and then he gets upended by Elijah Mitchell. Like, come on, man. Come on. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, basically, they're like, oh, if you're not Christian McCaffrey, we really could care less.
yeah, like, come on, man. Like, that's a bummer. But I do get this feeling that, like, regardless, I do feel San Francisco is going to be one of those better teams. I know they have not been so hot in the preseason thus far, and you got the Brock Purdy coming back from health, but I just get this feeling that, like, they're going to just turn it on. And even though Trey Lance is like the third quarterback on that roster, somehow with Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold, they're going to make it work. Like, Debo Samuel was basically a little bit banged up last season. You were just beginning to enter the offense into Christian McCaffrey. Brandon Ayuk really had like the best season of his career. You got George Kittle there. Just a lot of good stuff going on with the 49ers that I think it's going to happen again. They ranked really well for running backs and yards before contact. So I like San Francisco. I still think they're going to have that dominant defense. I don't know. I've seen a few like wonky things out there that people say like their offensive line's not going to be that great. Brock Purdy's not going to be fantastic, and that might be all right. But man, they still have George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. It's just a grocery list of like fantasy football guys that can just explode for you.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, they're in the NFC West.
Yes.
Like, to be honest, Seattle doesn't look that amazing, but Seattle has so many offensive weapons. Like, in the preseason, I should say they don't look amazing. But, like, who else is really going to scare you? The Rams or the Cardinals? Probably not.
No, not at all. Not at all. You're spot on. I mean, there is something interesting going on to me with the Cardinals, with their offensive line and their defensive line. But yeah, like the Rams to me are just not a good football team. And I mean, I've seen a lot of Stetson Bennett, which is a little bit concerning. Like, to me, if Stafford were like really all in and he's done with his injury and he wants to like get the rust off, all right, well, come in and play for a quarter, maybe play for a half. But you got to do something to get that offense going. But it just feels like there's a lot of, they got this feeling where like they're playing this season, but they're checked out. It just doesn't feel like they're all committed. I mean, like the one guy who wants to ball out because he wants to stick it to his head coach is Cam Akers. The fact that you guys almost traded him and then you brought him back and he just balled out for you, I think that's the one guy who's going to just explode and have an awesome season. But it's more personal. It's more of a vendetta. It's more of a me and not a we of the team. So that's what I see going on with the Rams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with the Rams, though, is like all of their star players have been injured. Cam Akers, Stafford, Cooper Kupp. Like
Jalen Ramsey, even though he's not there anymore.
Their core isn't very good, to be honest. Van Johnson, Tutu Atwell, like not afraid of any of those guys.
No, not all. They're pretty much more of back end guys of the roster. So they're definitely part of that, but
Yeah.
it's just not a team. I mean, I think that's a team that needs a more mobile quarterback to really open up that offense. And even today's news really reaffirms that this will be the last season of Jim Harbaugh in college. So the news came out today. He's getting a 3-game suspension against non-conference, no-name schools, and then he still has some kind of NCAA violation that's like hanging out there in like the nether world, something like that. And at some point, that's going to drop on him. And I think he's going to do like Pete Carroll did, and he's going to jump from the high-end college organization to a franchise that is in need of a rebuild. And possibly the Rams are one of those teams, possibly the Colts. I mean, well, Shane Steichen's there, but I still think the team that I've watched this preseason and is just absolutely hot garbage, has no clue what they're doing on offense, I watched the entire game and they had this guy out there. They couldn't throw a single pass downfield, is Carolina. That team is garbage. If you are looking at Adam Thielen, Miles Sanders, Jonathan Mingo, like those are good players, but man, like Bryce Young is not going to get it done. He takes very few steps in the pocket. He has very weird body mechanics of how he's working back there once the ball is in his hands. He doesn't look ready. He just does not look like a NFL ready quarterback.
Like Carolina's going to be the Chicago Bears of this year, where they have a young quarterback and that's it.
Yep. Yeah, and
DJ Shark's over there though. I like him. I do like him.
Yeah, DJ Shark is pretty nice. I really like DJ when he was in Jacksonville. He had some really nice games, but I just feel like this whole offense is garbage. I don't get what the heck they're doing. There's nothing going on the offensive line. Their defense is probably still not going to be that great. Steve Wilkes was kind of coaching it up, but I don't know. Like, I'm just going off the track record of Frank Reich in Indianapolis, and it's not good. So I think that's going to transpire to Carolina, where I think you pointed this out. It's like the island of misfit toys. And I think that's what Carolina has turned into. So they got to do something. And I mean, if they got the number 1 overall pick in the draft, I mean, all right, well, your Bryce Young pick is going to turn into what's his name that got drafted out of UCLA for the Arizona Cardinals. And I think you just start over and you go with Caleb Williams. It's going to be Josh Rosen. It's going to be Josh Rosen 2.0.
Oh, nobody wants Josh Rosen. Neither the Cardinals or the Dolphins.
That's true. But I do find irony in that because, like, look at San Francisco. Like, look at what Kyle Shanahan is doing with Brock Purdy. And this is now the second time that he's done that, where you have a big name, young quarterback that you draft at the beginning of a draft, and then you take a flyer on a less notarized quarterback towards the end of an NFL draft, but a quarterback who had really good success in college in Brock Purdy. Like, Iowa State was cooking. I mean, they had a few losses during that season, but man, Iowa State was definitely one of the best teams to watch during the season. I mean, they had David Montgomery back then. Like, that was a cool team. I think Breece Hall was part of that team as well. They had some really good guys at Iowa State. And that's what Shanahan did when he was in Washington with his father, when they got Kirk Cousins and Robert Griffin. So yeah, that's some good stuff. Oh, and shout out to James looking at the spreadsheets. Yes, these are not on the website yet. It's going to take me some time. It'll probably happen in the spring is kind of what I'm forecasting. For now, I'm just going to keep doing the YouTube videos of players that I like when we're looking at 2 of these rounds at a time, looking at rounds 1 through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to do this all the way through round 12. But in the meantime, we are going to update this list. And actually, you know what? That does bring up a good point, James, is that we should post this on our Instagram. I think that would be a good idea, Triggs. Like maybe do something like this where we put like the first 3 rounds of a 12-team draft. Maybe do it like this. Something like that, Triggs?
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. But
Yeah,
yes, this is
we'll figure out
absolutely something we want. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Just a lot of work going on behind the scenes, guys, between us watching games, putting out social content, working on this list as well. A lot of stuff. And this spreadsheet does update every single week. So where I get the data from for ADP, I just grab that, I throw it into Excel, I refresh it, and boom, it pops it up like this. So it's pretty good stuff. And that's absolutely something that you guys will be able to buy next spring. So yeah, that's definitely something we're going to do. Hopefully I can get that Instagram stuff going with the spreadsheets over probably the rest of this week. So yeah, I can definitely do that. Yeah, I mean, if anyone else has more fantasy questions, definitely give us a shout out. But yeah, I think we're doing good here for a show on a Monday, I'm thinking. So yeah, got any other news you want to talk about today?
We could probably
Triggs?
wrap up, man.
Yeah, I got you, man. I got you.
Not really. I mean, the USA basketball team is doing okay.
They are. And I like seeing my guy Kermit Wiltz. Everyone else knows him as Anthony Edwards. But man, like I like seeing that guy step up. I mean, I put a bet on him for like something like, I think I even bet on him for MVP last season. Like didn't happen, but I like seeing the play out of him now. I like seeing that hustle, that kind of good play out of him. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And Germany's a tough team, so they played well.
Yeah, they don't look like a gold medal team though. That's a problem.
Well,
Germany was winning, and I didn't like that. Didn't like that at all.
Yeah, and it's I noticed they had Schroeder, Dennis Schroeder is on that team, and he's a good player. So, yep. That's all I got.
Yeah. I mean, there's some other teams out there though that are like no, Dennis Schroeder, yeah, he's definitely a good player, but there's other teams out there like Canada is really good. You know, if they can't beat, not to be mean to some of these teams, but they're not running away. I mean, the international teams they have like raised the bar a little bit.
Right.
But I don't know. There's a lot of stars on our team that aren't stars.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of guys who are kind of more like the 3 or the 4 on a team, and it is what it is. We're gonna put those guys out there and see if they can beat out the rest of the world. But I think you're right. Like at some point, a team like a Germany or a Canada or a France, you're gonna run into, and I mean, you hope France doesn't have Victor Wembanyama out there, but at some point he might show up.
No,
so
they don't.
A team like
yeah.
So exactly.
He's not playing.
So yeah, he's way too valuable.
But Rudy Gay is a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Plus, France also has Rudy Gobert, right?
We don't have a center. Yeah. I'm sorry, Rudy Gobert, not Rudy Gay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly.
Old school.
Yeah. Yeah, Rudy Gobert is definitely a problem. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. So you're right. I mean, the team that America is putting out there is mostly comprised of guards and forwards. So yeah, it's a tough roster they got. So we'll see what they got, but yeah, you're gonna have to play better than what they did against Germany. So I saw Mark Fuse actually, and that's all you got. But yeah, I saw Mark Fuse, an assistant from Gonzaga, is on that staff, so that's kind of cool. I like that. But yeah, that's what you got. What video game of the day are we looking at behind you on the shelf? What you
Oh,
got, Triggs?
that's a good question. I have
Yeah.
no idea.
Oh man, is this
Uh,
gonna be a roll of the
let-
dice and
you know
a
what? I'm
rando?
gonna start from the left,
Okay.
and I'm just gonna keep going to the right every single day.
Nice.
All right, here we go.
Nice. Here we go.
Wait,
Who we
wait.
got?
We gotta flip the camera. Boom, boom.
Okay.
Summer Olympics, 1996. Oh, well, there it is.
Oh my. Is that someone throwing a javelin? Huh.
It
Yeah,
might be.
1996.
Let's check.
Okay.
Yes, yes, it is.
Wow. Wow, that's a javelin. That's
I think
good
that was
stuff.
Atlanta, right?
Yes, 1996 was Atlanta. Yep. But yeah, that's all I
What's
got
our
for
belt buckle today?
oh, our belt buckles. So today you can see we got the aqua color scheme going. So I got the Milwaukee aqua shirt, and a couple weeks ago I bought the Miami Marlins hat because I saw the M. So I'm like, yeah, I'm Steve Metrics. I got to get a hat with an M, and the Marlins hat looked pretty dope. So I got that, and to go with the blue, I got at our Wisconsin State Fair some more buckle down belts, and one of which is this, which is an Aquaman belt. And this is the cartoon Aquaman belt. So there was a Jason Momoa, and then there was blonde headed with a fish cartoon comic book Aquaman. And I went with the comic book. I like Jason Momoa. But yeah, he didn't do so hot with Khaleesi on Game of Thrones. So yeah, we're going with a comic book guy. Yeah. Shout out to all our Game of Thrones people out there. It looks like Triggs has some catching up to do on HBO Max one of these days. Yeah. Nope.
You know what? I will give it a shot just
Hey,
because
there
you
we go.
said so.
There we go. Just a little heads up, Triggs. Season 1 is a little it's a little tough. You might have to do a Wikipedia like family chart to like figure out who's who and who's related to who. But it's pretty good. Just gotta make sure the kiddies aren't around. There's some stuff I tell you. But yeah, it is a
Oh, I've heard.
dynamite series. And oh yeah, and shoot, even what was it? Oh man, there was this kick returner for the Cleveland Browns. I want to say his last name began with an M. He just got inducted into like the Cleveland Browns Hall of Fame. It was an amazing kick returner. He was an okay wide receiver. Played outside. I think he retired maybe about 3 years ago. But he is a diehard Game of Thrones fan. So whoever can find that would definitely be awesome. Yeah, there we go, James. Yeah, his kids would probably like it. Yeah, might want to watch it on the kids for this show. I'm just saying, yeah. So yeah, there you go. There you go. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. So yeah, good stuff. But yeah, it's a dynamite series. They got some work they're doing in the future, and yeah, they just had a really cool House of Dragon series that I really liked, and there's definitely gonna be more to that. So, but yeah, Game of Thrones is awesome. You can easily binge that show for like a month, and you're still gonna be obsessed with it. So, yeah. All right.
I've seen a couple episodes here and there, and I'm not really one for the medieval stuff, but
I
since
got
I
you.
have a new life, I could probably try some stuff.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm telling you, like season 1, a little tough figuring out who's who, and it's not the most like it's not really moving as fast, but once you get to season 2 and beyond, like man, that show really takes off. So you'll see a good amount of Jason Momoa in season 1. But yeah, there's good stuff. So it's a pretty fun series, man. I tell you that. So yeah. Yep. So I think we got a good show for today. Yeah, pretty good stuff. And following this Ravens Washington game, we'll have everything in the books for week 2 of preseason, so we can fire through some more stuff about the games, what we're seeing, more trends we're seeing, especially teams not playing their starters seems to be the theme of week 2. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll just kind of keep cruising, keep giving you guys some fantasy tips and breaking down more teams. So anyone who has a team they want us to talk about, shoot us up in the comments. Feel free to subscribe. Follow us on all these platforms that you see down here scrolling across the bottom of our screen. You're going to see us on Instagram. There it is. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever they want to call themselves these days. Facebook, YouTube. There you go. That is our whole slew. We're even on Threads, whatever that is. But you can check us all out here, everything you see below. So till tomorrow, we're gonna take a 23-hour break, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Yes, sir. I'm Steve Metrics. That's your boy.
It's your
DJ
boy,
Triggs.
DJ.
Yep. There he is. It's your boy, DJ Triggs. Together, we're No Debate Sports, and that's No Debates. Yeah, buddy.